Hey, it's Erin. I thought it would be kind of nice to do a little Pilates series. Pilates for dancers. If you're not a dancer, don't worry, you can stay. These are all exercises that anyone can do. I thought it would be kind of nice to make a series of Pilates exercises that can be done at home anytime. If you're in quarantine like me, this is kind of all we have. If you don't have a Pilates mat, use a yoga mat, maybe a towel, something that's not going to be as hard as this. If you have carpet, maybe it's not a problem. Just a little background on me. I am certified in Pilates mat. I am a third and fourth generation Pilates instructor. I trained under Marcy Callan. Her training came from elders such as Eve Gentry and Lolita San Miguel. Lolita San Miguel was certified by Pilates himself. So the line of training I have is very based in classical Pilates, as you might be more used to contemporary Pilates, but for this series, I'm really going to focus on the classical work. And I think the classical Pilates method is very effective, especially for dancers. Joseph Pilates originally worked with a lot of dancers while starting his method in the beginning. The exercises he came up with are still very relevant to any modern day dancer. So for today's first episode, we're going to be focusing on the spine. The spine is so essential, as I'm sure you know, because it helps us stand, it helps us walk. If you're like me and you've been in quarantine, your spine probably feels like a rod at the moment. Like my back hurts so bad because I've been sitting more than I've ever sat. I've been sleeping a lot more too, so I'm sure I sleep in terrible positions and my back is really suffering. So I thought it would be nice to kind of focus on the spine.
The graphics I reference in this video all come from my copy of this book, Dance Anatomy. I highly recommend this book and reference it for personal use often. I will link it in the description down below. Now on to the exercises. Don't forget to maintain your breath and remember that it's less about perfect execution and more about the essence. We're going to start by finding neutral pelvis. Notice whether there is space under the small of your back or if it's lying flat on the floor. Depending on your body's nature, this can be different from person to person. From there, start rocking your pelvis back and forth by engaging and releasing your lower abdominals. You should feel the small of your back or lumbar vertebrae making contact with the floor and then releasing. Start with big movements and then start to shallow them as you settle into neutral. Neutral pelvis is the position of the pelvis in which the hip points and pubic bone are in the same plane and the right and left hip points are in the same plane as well. Neutral pelvis is important because the four curves of the spine are partially influenced by the position of the pelvis. Maintaining a neutral pelvis in our day-to-day will help facilitate the proper and least load-bearing posture of the spine. We want to avoid an anterior pelvic tilt or overarching and a posterior pelvic tilt or tucking position, and focus on neutral as seen in the middle photo. You can test neutral pelvis by creating a triangle with your thumbs and forefingers and placing them on your hip points and base of your pelvis. If the triangle lies flat, you have found neutral. Test the stability of neutral by lifting one leg at a time while trying to maintain the position of your pelvis. If you were to imagine a hot bowl of soup resting on your pelvis, neutral would not allow it to spill. After establishing neutral, our first movement exercise will be the classic roll-up. Lie flat with your arms by your ears. From here, roll your head, neck, and shoulders up off of the mat and continue through a fully seated position, stretching parallel over the legs. As you start to roll back down, imagine you are ducking under a ceiling and then controlling your way down by utilizing your abdominals. Repeat this movement a few more times, keeping the legs heavy and articulating each vertebrae of the spine to lengthen out the back. This motion stretches and elongates the spine while warming up and activating the abs. Next movement is the rollover. Start on your back with your legs up at a 90-degree angle. Initiating with your lower abs, roll your pelvis up and extend your legs up and over your head to touch the floor. Get a nice stretch from the back of the neck through your hamstrings. As you come back, engage your triceps and lower abs so you can slowly roll back down, articulating each vertebrae. Don't forget to keep your shoulders down into the mat. If you are unable to touch your feet to the floor, no worries. It is more about the essence of the stretch than the execution of the position. Be careful in this movement if you have any pre-existing neck issues. For rolling like a ball, find your way to the top of your mat, hold either the backs of your legs or the front of your shins. Find a perch on your sits bones. From here, gaze down at your navel to round the spine and roll, catching yourself in that perch back at the top. This movement massages out the back while strengthening the abdominals, which in turn protects the spine. This should honestly just be a fun exercise. For spine stretch forward, sit in a pike position with legs lengthened out. Sit right on top of your sits bones perpendicular to the floor. Reach your arms out in front of you, round the spine by pulling back the navel and tucking the chin forward, reaching out the arms over your legs while keeping them parallel. Resist just flopping over the legs and really feel the opposition of your lumbar spine pulling back while your upper body reaches forward. This will enable the deepest stretch through your back. Next up is saw. Widen your legs to the edges of your mat. For all of my flexi dancers out there, do not go to your maximum straddle position. Again, sit right on top of your sits bones. Lengthen your arms out to the side of your body. Twist your spine to one direction. Tuck your chin to chest, roll down and saw off your pinky toe with your pinky finger, figuratively of course. Roll back up and repeat the other way. Remember to keep the opposite hip grounded into the floor. This is a wonderful exercise for increased mobility in transverse rotation of the spine. A more simple version is spine twist, very similar but with your legs together and without rolling down. The nomenclature is on point with this one. I started having too much fun here, as you can tell. Now that we've done both flexion and rotation of the spine, it is time for extension. Start lying on your belly, hands placed under your shoulders. To start swan, imagine you start to push a marble forward with your nose. You are reaching so far forward that your head and eventually chest start to lift off the mat. Try not to apply too much pressure into your hands and press your pelvis into the floor. Only come up as far as you can without engaging the lower back. This is to focus on extension of the thoracic vertebrae or middle spine region, not the lumbar. From here, stretch your arms out for swimming. Lift your arms, chest, and legs off the floor and with straight limbs begin paddling in opposition for about 10 seconds. For the last back extension exercise, bend your knees and grab the outside of your feet for rocking. Press your feet into your palms to lift the front of your chest in a big stretch and strengthen the back. Begin to rock on the soft part of the belly. If the rocking is too much, just hold the stretch. Press back into child's pose to stretch the back in the opposite direction. Last but not least, we need lateral flexion of the spine. Sit on one hip, hand under shoulder, feet staggered. Press up and over to a side plank, rainbowing over with the arm. You should feel a nice stretch through your lateral side body. Don't forget to repeat on the other side too. To finish off, stretch it out in child's pose once again, and then make your way to all fours for some classic yoga cat-cow movements, exploring your improved mobility of your spine and doing some final flexion and extension.
So those were just a few Pilates spine-based exercises that I think are really nice to kind of warm up the spine, both stretching it and strengthening it, which is the beautiful thing about Pilates because it does both. I think it's a really essential form for dancers and for any type of cross-training method because you're getting strong and lengthened at the same time. If you don't already know, the most important thing in protecting your spine is actually going to be your core. So in the next video, we will talk more about abdominal muscles and give some Pilates exercises that really focus on those. I hope some of this information was useful. Don't forget to take care of your spine.